I got a call from a friend of mine who said he was friends with Sean Lennon and that Sean was looking to do a music video for his parents' song, Happy Christmas, War's Over.
We wanted to meet Sean, we wanted to hear like what the possibilities were on the project, but you know, for us, we tend to be narrative filmmakers and tell narrative stories.
I hadn't thought much about doing a music video, but you know, it's John and Yoko, and you know, the song is so iconic and important.
There was talk of doing a more traditional music video, but I felt that because the song was so known and loved already.
So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over.
It didn't really need, it wasn't necessary to come out with just visual accompaniment to a song that's known and loved.
We met, and it was great because right away, Sean and I connected very quickly.
So I wanted to try something different, which would be to do a narrative.
For me, I immediately was like, yes, this is what I do.
Like a little short film that embodied the message of the song, to support the song but kind of expand upon it and present it in a new context. We
just started talking about what the song meant, why it was created. You know, John and Yoko, you know, they were very strongly protesting the Vietnam War in 1971, and they knew that they wanted to make a song that was kind of like a candy wrapper, like a holiday Christmas song on the outside, but on the inside, it's really an anti-war, pro-peace song. I honestly had always thought of it as this sort of holiday song, and you know, when you really listen to it and you listen to the lyrics, it's so obvious. I mean, it's so obviously an anti-war song. Started thinking about, okay, well, this has to be a war film. We have to show war if we're going to have an anti-war film. All right, how do we do this? So it's got to be in a war setting, and the idea that people are so positive when they're on opposite sides of a conflict or opposite sides politically or whatever it is, that they're so against each other, and they're so positive of it. And if you just stop and talk to somebody, you're gonna find that you probably have a lot more in common with them than you think you do. So the question then became, how do we pay an homage to the song, but also how do we get two sides that are so sure that they're against one another to connect? And how do you do that? So this idea of chess as a metaphor for war, soldiers being pawns in war. Well, what if they were playing a game of chess and they didn't know that? So that's kind of the big conceit of the film, is how do we get these soldiers on opposite sides to play this game? So that then begged the question of like, well, how are they communicating? We said, well, you know what? A carrier pigeon would be a perfect vehicle for that.
I've always been a fan of the messenger pigeons in wars. You know, the idea that these pigeons are kind of war heroes and that they should be, you know, lauded in the same way that soldiers are, because they're risking their lives and, you know, ultimately, you know, possibly saving human lives. So I've always found that to be very romantic and interesting.
And not only is a pigeon in the dove family, which is a symbol for peace, but it also puts us in this setting of World War I, because what we were trying to do is we're trying to make a statement about all war, not about a specific war. So even though we're in this World War I setting, we worked very hard on sound and music and design. You know, the work that Zach Retz did with the production design, the work that Max Narciso did with the character design, the sound work that Jack Whitaker and Duncan McRae did, the score that Thomas Newman put together. We tried very hard to make it very hard to identify where it was regionally. Even though you look at it and go, is this World War I? We're not really sure. That was the thing that we wanted, because in the end, we didn't want to have a regional opinions about the war. We just wanted it to be about war.
Dave and I had a story fairly quickly when we first met. We came up with an outline.
Sean and I had 2 hour and a half long meetings, and we came out of that with an outline, which is just that doesn't happen. I mean, even for a short film, there's a lot of development that goes into it, story-wise.
And I think we finished all that in January of 22, and then we immediately started doing artwork with Zach Retz and Max Narciso. So we had this beautiful little handful of pieces that we took into a meeting that we had with Sean up in Northern California, and he was super excited. And in that meeting, we got to Sebastopol, just north of San Francisco, thinking that we were gonna go in for our 1 hour meeting with Sean, and that 1 hour meeting turned into a 24-hour meeting.
We talked about what we wanted to do with the film. We talked about what we wanted to do with Electro League. We talked about what music meant and how we can make, I think, bring this very important message to the forefront in our culture today.
Out of that came the discussion about Peter Jackson.
Sean's like, well, I'm friends with Peter Jackson. We just worked on Get Back Together. I could just send him the script. And and Brad's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, send him Peter Jackson the script.
So Sean started texting with Peter at dinner. Peter's like, I would love to see what you guys are up to. Send me the script.
He's like, okay, zhoof, on the iPhone. And I just remember my heart skipped about 10 beats. I'm like, oh my God, Peter Jackson's got our script.
We woke up the next morning to a text from Peter saying, I love it. Let's meet tomorrow.
And he connected to the script. He connected to the artwork that we shared with him. And I think with Peter, his love for the Beatles and John and Yoko, his love for, obviously for filmmaking and hopefully good storytelling, I think the biggest thing that he connected to was the Ukraine war had just broken out 2 weeks earlier, and he felt the way we did, which is a really important moment.
For this reason, the world needs this message more than ever. At that point, it was in its 50th anniversary, and Peter knew that he could help bring this thing to a new audience and people that really needed to hear it at that moment in time.
He only had one question for me, which was, and I don't want to give anything away about the film if you haven't seen it, but there's a moment in the film that we really go there. It's dark. You see the cost that innocence pays in war, not only the soldiers, but an innocent. And he said, do you have to do that? And, I was very clear. I said, Peter, this is the whole point of this, is that we show the gravity of what war is and the effect it has on people. And I explained to him why I felt was important. And he said, no, you're right. And that was really the only question he had for us about it. He was incredibly supportive, and from that he said, we have a special projects unit at Weta. We're getting into animation. We're using Unreal and Epic's Unreal Engine, and this is a perfect project for our special projects group.
It was a difficult process to get it finished, but ultimately, I'm really thrilled, and I think it turned out great, and people's response has been amazing. So I think it was maybe risky, but it was a high risk, high reward kind of situation, and I think it's turned out to be very rewarding.